Welcome to Chapter 3 of Information Literacy, Taking Charge. This week we will be focusing on information research in the humanities or in literature in the social sciences, literature reviews in the social sciences and sciences. The research process is all about verbal data and information and its discovery. There are some basic things that you need to do with the research process. First, develop an intense desire. Take your time to plan your research strategy. It is crucial to become a friend to structure. Develop lateral thinking. Lateral thinking is the ability to recognize your path is blocked and to abandon that approach and to look for another. You then run with a new approach and repeat the process as needed. Just a note, the link to the Trials of Galileo is no longer valid link. Please see the updated link on the weekly page. Simply reading about a topic and regurgitating the information on paper is not research. Inadequate research assumes that the thing to do is to gather data and put it together. It deals in generalities, superficiality, and surveys. There is no depth or analysis. It asks no important questions. There is no advancement of knowledge. And above all, it is boring. The key to research, good research, is the difference between the way data is used. With bad research, you find everything you can and review what you have found. With good research, you gather basic information, identify a problem or an issue to deal with, and use the data to solve the problem or issue. You don't search for everything on the topic. Instead, you focus on solving a specific problem or issue. Most professors require you to choose only one aspect of a topic. They are seeking evidence of you using data to analyze and solve the main research issue. Always, 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 when in doubt of the path that you're taking, consult with your professor or the person giving you the instructions or assignment or the project you are researching. A few other hints on beginning research are: assume from the get-go that you're going to have to narrow the topic. You do this so that you can more efficiently get some depth in the project. Finally, you're going to have to work with the professor or the person requesting the information to get at what they are really wanting. Look at the model and study it, the model for research on page 48 of your text. This shows the research process and its steps. You begin with a question. You then collect data on that question and put the information you gather from the data in a format that makes sense to you. Think about how each piece of data works you gather you gather from that data, and think about how each piece of data works, furthers research. Think about how each piece of data answers the original question. There we go, we finally got it. Develop a conclusion and offer recommendations for further research in this area. You cannot just regurgitate information on a sheet of paper and call it research. That is not research. It's a process. Research as an inquiry process is turning data into information that is used to answer a question. Another way to look at this is covered in the tutorial, The Research Process. There is a link for this on the video lecture section of the weekly page. The first step to get started in research is to get a working knowledge of your topic. This will be accomplished when you can speak for 1 minute without repeating things about the topic. This basic knowledge will give you the basics of a topic, what it entails, what are its boundaries, what are the controversies connected with the topic, what are some of the words of the language of the topic, what are some of the scholars of the topic. Background information is acquired from a reference book on the topic, not the internet. We'll get to that later. You need to find a resource that gives concise, authoritative information about your topic. There are some of these on the internet, but they usually require a subscription. Go to a library and see if they have access to the source in some form. And while you're in the library, to see those formats, you might as well look at the reference section for information. There are some older and lighter versions of resources available out there on the internet. Finally, when researching the background information on a topic, think of the topic broadly when searching for the resources at this point in the game. A lot of students use Wikipedia. Wikipedia should have been a disaster from the get-go, but it's worked. The articles are not written by experts, usually, and they can be edited by anyone. There are some safeguards that ensure some quality, and the changes that usually stick are agreed upon by a lot of people to be correct. So, there's some gatekeeping, I guess. So, is Wikipedia good or bad? The resource is amazingly reliable, despite the errors. However, like other general encyclopedias, some professors do not allow the use of it. Wikipedia should not be used in your cited sources at the end of the paper. See it for what it is. Like I said many times, it's a tool. It's useful in some instances and it's just fine. In others, it's not the best tool to be using. The best part of the resource is the references or citations. And remember the ancient Chinese secret of research. Also, remember that sabotage does occur and that false topics do exist in Wikipedia. There are a growing number of full-text reference sources available in print and online. Each library will have its own list of these that are available for you. These are not Google and they're not Wikipedia. They're actual resources that are useful. They've gone through gatekeeping and they're reliable. You usually do not include them in your bibliography unless the information that you obtain from them is in a large amount. You're just gathering background information. There are some of the resources on the web that have gone through some gatekeeping. Once again, make a list of page 55. Make a copy of that list. This is going to be useful for you when you get away from LCC or college and you no longer have access to some of the databases that are available. It is not considered research until you have developed a good question and have focused it with a question that addresses a specific question or problem. Narrow the topic to one aspect. Make your topic distinct enough to work with. Avoid broad, shallow aspects that lead to gathering a truckload of data that you're not going to be used and a very lousy paper. Identifying issues related to your narrowed topic is not merely gathering all the information, but it's identifying information that you can use to solve the issue. The information is not the end of the data, the end of the means, but the inquiry is what is the end of the means. The inquiry is the going through the process of looking at the information you gathered. Research questions and thesis statements are two sides of the same thing. A research question introduces a problem. A thesis statement is a tentative answer to that problem. So if you must go the thesis statement route with your research, you will be testing your hypothesis to see if it is correct with your research. On the other hand, if you go with the research question route, you're going to be introducing a question and using the information that you gather to suggest solutions to it. There are several different types of bad questions. The question that isn't there does not state a question. That's an obvious one. The fuzzy question is not clear enough to be answered. The multi-part question lets your question become more than one. And remember, you're supposed to only have one question. The open-ended question fragments things into many different responses, and that way you can't come to a single conclusion. And finally, the question that will not fly asks for things that can't be answered with data. The best type of questions are simple ones that require in-depth analysis to answer. Throughout the book, Badke will have sections called Clearing the Fog. In this one, he has the following pointers. Remember that research is a conversation. Too often today, people just look up sources and use sources to back up what they want to say and to fulfill the necessary resource material assignment. The research that you do in the resource materials each brings their author's own ideas of the topic to the forefront. You then analyze that data, critique it, and come to your own conclusions about the topic. So don't put the cart before the horse. Don't put your conclusions before you actually research the other conclusions. Once you've created your research questions, you should develop a preliminary outline before you start researching. This is going to save you a lot of headaches. A preliminary outline helps you to more efficiently research the topic. It should include 3-5 points that you think you will cover in the paper or information project that you're working on. You use your research question as a guide to what topics to include. Which one of those 3-5 topics that you're going to include in your outline. The outline is not set in concrete, and it's going to change throughout the process of your research. Once you have the topic that you plan to cover, organize them in a rational manner. You can change, adapt, scrap, start all over, and as you go along through the whole process. That's why it's called a temporary outline. Finally, always check with your professor or the person requesting the information if you're on target with your topic and research question. Also, know when to stop. Know when to just say no. There's always going to be resources that you didn't find or have access to that could have been included. There's a link to an article by Jody Jensen called The Myth of One More Source that talks about this under the video lectures for the weekly, on the weekly page. That's it for Chapter 3. I will see you at Chapter 4.